TheatreMix.
You're listening to TheatreMix, a brand new podcast.
Hi everyone! Welcome to our first ever podcast by Artremix. So, I'm Issa. Together with me is Lia. Say hi.
Hi guys.
And we also have Kuya Nico with us.
Hello.
Just to introduce our organization. So, we're just a group of people who basically met in UST who has this one passion that brought us together, which is basically theater. So, we're theater enthusiasts. And eventually, we actually grew into becoming practitioners, such as actually we began starting with just college productions, here and there becoming performers. And one of us, like Kuya Nico, he was one of our directors, and I was also in an ensemble group with Lia as well. Coming from that, we actually just banded together prior to the pandemic. And of course, we found ourselves, in a sense, clinging to each other's company again during the pandemic. One of our proponents in the organization, actually in our group of friends, he got to tap us to start this organization, no? Or like basically just start this group or rekindle somewhat our passion for theater through I think that was covers. Is that right, Lia?
Yeah, it started with covers. Yeah.
Like I think you did a couple. Actually, we did a couple few weeks or months back.
Yeah.
And tell me how did you guys got tapped into Artremix? How about
Well-
you, Kuya Nico? Sorry.
Around that time, of course, the pandemic was still ongoing and we were all lost, figuratively and literally, on what to do. And the theater industry also stopped. So everybody needed some kind of an escape from all the pressure, from all the anxiety that we were experiencing. And at that time, one of our friends that's part of our core group messaged me and they wanted to do something that's related to theater. So right there and then, I thought about it for a while, but I agreed right away. So that's why I'm here.
Actually, the term being tapped is kind of funny kasi literally it was just how do you tap people these days? Like, it's just messaging, no? Like, for me, I just expressed one night on Twitter na I kind of miss theater. Then bigla na lang akong tinap na, hey, do you want to join us? Parang, it's super casual. Is that like the same thing that happened to you, Lia, di ba? Parang,
Yeah,
bigla na
it
tayong
was.
na-drag into this GC and like, hey, let's start this thing.
Yeah, that's true.
But little did we know that it was just a single message, and then we got to actually creating this. And for us, I think since, we've been quite familiar with doing theater and somewhat expressing ourselves through covers, coming together, this kind of actually shows or unites to some sort of vision that we want to recognize our passion and the experience that we have and make something more out of it, especially during this pandemic now.
And of course, I guess we just missed each other. We missed
Agree.
working
I agree
together.
with that.
We missed working together, although we would have wanted to be together in, face to face, but due to the circumstances, we just had to adapt to what we have right now. And thank God for technology because we
Sure.
can communicate through Discord, through the different platforms that we have right now. And it somehow makes the collaboration that we're doing and what we're gonna do possible.
Agree. So in a sense, like even if the feeling of or clinging to one another during this pandemic actually brought us into creating something. Oddly, no? So other than that, kasi going back to when we all began. For example, I myself, I was just someone who's really coming into the group like before we all met together. I was just someone who is really wanting to have an outlet in theater because all my life I wasn't able to touch back. I think that was when I started in college. And I wanted to find an expression or find a group of people who's in theater because in high school I wasn't able to do that. I was focusing on other things, academics, something like that. And that's coming from that, I just came into this group of people actually in USD. Like ako talaga mag-isa lang ako. I just came to the organization and then found this group of people. Like, nagugulat na lang sila na, ikaw lang talaga mag-isa. And like, I was isolated in my college. So parang, it was that strong. For me, it felt like I want to go or be into theater was that strong for me that it didn't matter whether I was with someone or not. And then I just found this group of people. And then coming from there, ayun, I get every opportunity that I got, I jumped to it. Eventually, I grew into knowing Kuya Nico. I got bonded with Lia, and then through our I mentioned network lang, but through this group of people, nag-expand yung opportunities. Much more like right now, this is also an opportunity for me to express our love for theater or for the craft that we want, diba? So parang, for me, that's how somewhat a brief overview of my passion talaga for theater that just keeps on burning until now. I don't know, maybe it's something very natural. I think it's very natural among us, no? Talagang, we kind of cling to it. Talagang babalik at babalik tayo sa theater.
Yes, yes.
Yes, that's very true.
It's like an itch that you have to scratch every now
Like,
and then.
It's just something there all the time. You can't put it away, you can't do anything. It's just there and you like it being there. You love
How about you,
rather
Leah?
love it.
How about you? How did it start for you?
Oh well, for me it started when I was, if I'm not mistaken, 9 years old when I joined this workshop, and it was actually the main reason why I was in that workshop was because of singing. But then it was a musical theater workshop. So since it's not just singing, it's acting and dancing. And
Leah.
this is acting and
Little
dancing.
Leah.
Yes, it's little me. Imagine me like just dancing weirdly. But from there, I started, wow, wait, I love this. I love what I'm doing. At that age, I already knew that I love theater. The moment I came in, I was like, yeah, I love this. I love theater. And then it just continued. In grade school, I was part of the drama club. High school, I was part of the drama club. And in UST, I was part of the same org that we all were. And then actually I transferred to a new school and I took AB Theater Arts. So I made I'm glad for that decision because I made the decision based on my passion, based on what I want to actually do in life and make my passion a lifestyle. So that's me. How about you, Kuya Nico?
Wait,
Like, where did theater
it
come
might
from
take a
for you?
lifetime to talk about it. No, no, I'm just joking. Um, I really wanted to just perform. That was what I really wanted ever since elementary. And I would just perform, in different programs or different events in school. And I didn't have that, very narrowed down passion for theater. I just wanted to perform. I just wanted to be on stage. And when I got into college, I joined the choir. And then by the time I was third year, I think I joined the org that we were part of. We were all part of, and uh, it didn't really spark that much right away. That kind of the theater bug. I just really wanted to perform, but after college, that was the time that I missed doing it when I was already working. There was something missing in me when I was working. There was something that I wanted to fulfill, and I still joined productions even after college, and it just continued and continued for so many years up until I got into my quarter life, and I got that what quarter life people would usually experience, that kind of crisis in terms of career.
Bakit?
Yes, and
For
by that point, I just had to just to stop and think about what I wanted to do with my life. And uh, eventually that led me to doing theater and into studying theater as my master's, which I'm wanting to finish. right now with even with the pandemic, I want to finish it so that I could do more with what I have already studied. And somehow it led me to to Artremix, and I'm just glad that I'm here with you guys so we could, collaborate and help each other out.
I think that's it's very true to anyone who's really I mean, before it begins to be passionate. Parang I don't know, it's too natural for someone who's in the passion for theater seems so innate because it's that strong when it calls. Talagang, for example, Kuya Nico is really going to he found his way back to theater as so much that he took masters for it. And as for Leah, sometime very early in her life, she realized it and she just went through with it. And even in college, she just had to decide to really pursue it. And personally, me, then right now I might be into somewhat of a formal industry, but still I cling for that. I cling for theater. It's like come to think of it, whether you're constantly in theater, you never run out of that fuel or that burning passion for theater. And then for someone who's somewhat like me, I'm not constantly in the industry or doing anything related to theater. I still cling to it. It's very natural. I don't know. It's just a great realization talaga na. I don't know that it's that strong. It's some sort of force. And like right now, there's this stronger force that's kind of I wouldn't say limit, but challenges our passion for it, which is the pandemic. A lot has changed in the industry since the pandemic, right? Like I think the
Yeah.
mention of Nico before, in a snap, it was gone. I think it not to say gone, but like it completely changed. Because we
Yes,
can't do
I
anything physical right now.
yes, I remember that time, early 2020, we were doing a production in Dulaang UP. It was a rerun of the play about Rosa Henson, Nana Rosa,
Mm.
and we were on our
Oh, I
second
like
week.
that.
Yes, we were on the second week, and at that point, the news, the news about the coronavirus was already gaining traction. Many people, I think it started with like one case, two cases, and then it just multiplied and multiplied. So we were at that point now. Are we still gonna pursue? Are we still gonna continue
Yeah.
the whole run? And the lockdown happened and we didn't have any other choice but to totally stop the production because it will endanger the people, not just the actors or the production team, but the audience that will watch the play. So
Yeah. That's
uh, at that point, we thought that this pandemic wouldn't last this long.
mhm.
We thought that it would just last for a month
Yeah,
or
we
two
were
till we
hopeful,
Yeah.
all come
Pano.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, if
We
I
were
may share,
hopeful.
I kind of have the same situation because when pandemic happened early 2020, I was actually working on my thesis with my thesis mate, my batchmate, and we were supposed to do this device theater thing, but then pandemic struck and we had to stop our thesis altogether. And then during the pandemic, we had to make a new thesis because our plans, we couldn't do it that's just online. So we had to stop everything altogether. And we really didn't think also that the pandemic would be this long. I mean, it's 2021, we're almost at
True.
2022, and we're still here.
True.
So yeah.
Yes, and on my end, as I remembered that moment, as I was the marketing manager of the season that year, it was kind of a difficult decision to stop because you had to consider all the logistics, everything that you
Yeah.
have to pay for, all the refunds that you have to think about.
My
So it
gosh.
was it was such a terrible moment to remember, but of course you had to be considerate of the situation, and maybe for some time we just had to like hide and not really think about other things but just to survive, right?
Exactly.
It
Yeah.
was that moment that we were on autopilot. We just wanted to survive. We needed to make sure that our families are safe. We just wanted to secure our places that we're not exposed to the virus. But eventually, we came to a point that we had that. hunger. We already felt that hunger for something to do, for something to entice or to stimulate our creative juices. And maybe that's why also Artremix happened, because of that hunger, because of that need or want to do something, to um, have that stimulation of creative juices. And because of that, I think other companies, other theater companies, even the theater schools also thought about, doing something that will be um, manageable with the circumstances that we have right now.
Yeah, I agree. We have
Yeah.
this urge to always do something. We have this urge for the creativeness that we have to do. We got hungry, exactly. We got hungry for it. And all these schools, all these organizations, even Artemix, we are just like, okay, we're done being hungry. We have to do something about it. We need to eat. So that's what we did. That's what everyone did. We all found a way to keep theater going. It may have like paused for a while, but we're all able to do it now.
How about you, Isa?
Um,
During that time, when was the point that you somehow felt that yearning for theater or for doing something creative?
like I said, it's a constant thing in you to inherently want any touch of theater to, for me, it's just to actually feel alive again. The need for that in this pandemic is really strong because let's admit that this is such a like we're all under a dark cloud. It's pandemic, so we really needed to have that. So every now and then I go back to what, for example, we had this chance last year in 2020, right? A Phantom had this free streaming of their show, just as
Yeah.
well in the Philippines naman or in the local scene, Huling Albimbo, because it makes me feel that I get that hint of, oh, a show. That kind of, in a sense, satisfies my very I wouldn't be a little bit modest about this anymore. Of course, I was frustrated when the pandemic hit and I couldn't watch all the shows that I was looking forward to watch. I think that's right now one of the most important things that helps the theater industry survive now, isn't it? Like, I think what you call that is like Zoom productions. So basically, for people who are mounting production, I think they call it Zoom productions. They're basically creating this online platform to be able to say that the show is still going on, having this platform. Let's go about discussing that for today. Like what is it? Let's say how it's been as a pandemic, how this Zoom productions has been doing, through probably how we experience it. For me, as far as I know, I just get to watch these productions that are probably through this new setup right now. And since, of course, I think Lia and Nico, both of you had experiences being part of these, you can also share some of your thoughts regarding that. No.
For me, I could speak from my experience being part of Leah's thesis production. So, Leah, I guess you can tell us more about how it started, how everything started, and how you guys managed on your
Yes.
side.
At first, I was completely lost because my thesis is a playwriting thesis, and of course, being still a theater major, I had to produce my thesis. And it was very hard for me to try to grasp at how can I make this an online production. But yes, I've been in um other online productions. I was actually a sound designer for another production in my school, but I wasn't heading that. I was just a sound designer. So now when it came to my thesis, I was like, okay, how do I actually go about this? So I asked my friends who's actually headed Zoom productions and such. And it was a really long process. And it really is a big transition from live theater to online theater. I think that's where our the quote that we always say, the show must go on. So no matter what happens, we're still going to put up a show.
That's correct. That's
Yes,
correct. It's like no pandemic, no coronavirus can even stop people from doing what
doing
they love.
theater.
And in
Exactly.
our In our case, that's theater. For my part, for my experience, it was a different feeling when Leah messaged me. She was asking me to audition for her play, and I thought about it. I thought about the different considerations of how can we even mount it on a Zoom platform. I mean, all the the acting, the uh, the actual staging. It feels at first I felt really hesitant to do it because I didn't know what will happen. I didn't know if it will really, if it will really come out as we want it to be, as we expect it to be. But looking back with the process that we've encountered, that we've experienced, and the actual output that we've shown on our platforms, it felt that it's as if that we're doing it in a live setting. It's just that we are in a different, in a different realm, in the digital realm, but it somehow feels same but different, if you know what I mean.
It's like you always feed off the character your co-actors because you can see them, but now it's more of you have to use your imagination to see them in your own room when they're in the other side of Luzon or something.
Yes, yes. It seems like a different challenge altogether that you have to imagine how your co-actor will now react to what you're saying. So somehow as an actor, you tend to uh do more, you tend to think more, you tend to feel more because your co-actors are not with you physically. But what I really liked with what we did is that somehow everybody joined in the in the bandwagon of feeling each other, of trying to have that foresight of how will each other react to the different scenes, to the different dialogues, and it was quite a risk, I will say, Leah, when we attempted to do it live.
The thing about live is that there's so many things you have to consider because you have to consider all the tech, all the Wi-Fi. Like, imagine if it's live, if you're streaming live and then all of a sudden in the middle of a play, your Wi-Fi goes down or maybe something went wrong with your laptop or your camera. It's just another feeling of panic. It's a different feeling of panic. Like you will panic backstage when something goes wrong. It's like it's the same thing here, but just a different kind of panic.
Yeah, and at this point, the panic is somehow, out of your hands because you're dealing with the internet
Yeah.
connectivity, di ba? You're
And
dealing with all the lags, with all the uh problem. Maybe your laptop might bust. So those things that you have to think about. But with the Zoom productions, I've also seen with the reactions, especially with Leah's thesis, people, somehow joined in the emotional journey of the characters. I was a bit, ambivalent in the sense that people might not catch on the story because we're doing it,
Oh, that's one
in
of
a
the most
digital
important
platform,
things
right? So
in
there
theater.
was this point that I was worried if they will even understand or feel the emotions that we're expressing in the production, since just they're just seeing it on a screen, and maybe they're opening other tabs as the play goes on. But with the people that I've invited to watch, most of them, or all of them rather, they all felt and they all watched the whole play. They managed to understand what was going on in the play and what happened with the characters. So I guess that maybe despite our initial hesitations or possible worries with the platform, it somehow works. What can you guys say about that?
I think
Actually, go ahead, Leah.
sorry. Oh, actually, I think yeah, it works. We're adapting, we're changing, we're learning how to do things. We're learning how to keep the show going. And I think besides the thing that another good thing about what happened, what not really what happened, but another good thing that Zoom productions are able to give to us is that it's become more accessible. Theater has become more accessible because
Yes.
if there's a play in, let's say, Luzon, and you're all the way in Mindanao, how are you going to watch that? But now because of technology, it's people from all over the country can actually watch a play in Luzon or Visayas or Mindanao. And if I'm not mistaken, there are other shows out there in the other side of the world, and we can still watch it.
That's
So
really
Actually, yeah.
true. That's really true,
Mm.
Lee. You guys remember when I would invite you guys to watch in UP? You know how far
Mm.
away that is from your
yeah,
homes. No, so
yeah,
with the
Yeah.
digital
Like
production,
city and then
yeah, right?
Diliman.
It's like you're traveling to a province. It's that far away. Um,
yeah.
what I appreciate with what Leah mentioned is that the accessibility has been really there. People from different places, not just in the Philippines, but even abroad, you can invite them to watch, and without worrying that they will get late or will miss the show, since it's, diba, you just with the click, you can watch it whenever you want, however you want. So yeah, that's one I think advantage of the transition that we're experiencing right now.
I'm just super appreciating how things develop. Like, yes, there's a pandemic, there was a challenge, and then it actually works. And it's actually what's happening right now. What's happening right now is that, like what Leah mentioned, no, that theater is evolving in that sense. But people, let's say in theater, and even people who are enthusiasts, people who are watching, would say, is that actually theater? For example, in my perspective, there is an internal conflict as to whether is this actually a quote unquote theater show, because I'm not actually in a theater. I'm just watching it my screen. And like I feel like there's a lot taken away. And I think that's also one of your initial issues, right? There's also this perspective of it actually works. And a lot of people are appreciating it. And there are challenges for people who feels like it doesn't work and for people who thinks that it does work.
We've discussed that in our master's class, in our graduate class, because there are scholars who are proposing or who are claiming that for a theater to be called as such, it has to be live, because it's the essence of theater performance. It's liveness, and the point where it disappears is when
In
the play
worry.
ends. That moment, that liveness, that present moment is what makes it a theater production. But then, of course, when technology evolved, and there are many, this is pre-pandemic, the usage of video design, the use of video clips that are included in theater or in performances here and abroad, uh, somehow changes that mindset of theater as just purely live. And right now, in our setup, in our situation, that has become more and more evident that, when we talk about theater, it's not entirely anymore just constrained in the liveness, in the in it being in the moment, quote unquote. But of course, there's still people who prefer to watch something in a live setting. And that's a matter of preference. But in the case of trying to make theater alive, continuing to make it alive despite the circumstances, I guess the Zoom productions are a welcome development in our case. How about you, Leah? What do you think of it?
I agree.
Yeah.
The thing about theater, it's live, yes. But if you notice, there are some parts already of theater that are sometimes recorded. Like I was actually thinking of the song "Satisfied" from Hamilton. There's a part there's
Oh
rewind,
yeah.
rewind, rewind, rewind. That
Yeah.
what it doesn't the actor doesn't actually sing rewind, rewind, rewind. It's actually in the instrumental already. And another thing, you put an LED screen, it's already there. It's like that. And on other things, Zoom productions are not only just recorded, like what we did for my thesis. It was actually live. As much as theater is all about live, there's things that are evolving in it, and it still makes it live. If if you guys get me.
Okay, good question. Like, how does it, me right now, I'm trying to imagine because I like the essence of theater being present, physically present. It coincides with the fact that it is live. You whatever you're taking in, the things you're listening to, the story that you're seeing is also live. When it comes to Zoom productions or everything happening in the virtual platform, things are still live. It's not physical. Would it be the same? Would it be better? Would it be just different? If it's different, how exactly? Just a couple of questions that gets me wondering. Because exactly I know how it feels like when it's live, right? How would that be compared to Zoom productions right now? Or I'm also thinking about it. It would be still possible to have a different appreciation for it, right?
Yes, and I guess it's part of the transition that we are, trying to find our way through the from the practitioners and even with the audience. So I guess the hesitation in the beginning is natural since we were also accustomed to seeing it live. But then
Mhm.
now that we are aware that this is gonna be like the norm for quite a while, I guess it's important that we somehow get to see the beauty in the productions that are done through Zoom. But of course, I think we've mentioned this during our conversations prior to this podcast that that it's really dependent on the material. One, second, it's also depending on the writing. Yeah, the writing that the playwright and how he or she managed to think about or consider that this is going to be a Zoom production, and then the direction and the acting as well on how you will try to engage your audiences in this particular platform as compared to
Exactly.
when you're doing it in a live setting.
Mhm.
Of course, I haven't experienced it, but I can't imagine, number one, how would a Zoom production be able to hook me or like make me feel the magic that I feel. That's why I love theater so much, right? It's because of the magic it makes me feel both when I'm performing or when I'm watching. Will it be able to do the same thing? Will it be able to hook me? I'm not sure if it's right now I'm thinking of it as a perspective of an audience, but I feel that a huge responsibility in making, in allowing the magic or hooking the audience comes into how it's actually made or created, right? I think that's a very good question to ask. Like, how do these Zoom productions actually happen?
Yeah, actually, if I may say it, during my thesis, right, I told you I was lost because everything hinges on tech. Like literally everything, because you have to make sure your Wi-Fi is fine. You have to make sure your laptop, your desktop is fine. Make sure the camera doesn't glitch or whatever. And you have to find your own mic. And as much as possible, you have to have like earphones that aren't really seen, because the moment you see, let's say you do a period piece like what we I was able to be a part of a production that it was sort of a period piece. And just imagine if you had like headset instead of like those very discreet um earphones. It ruins it. So you really have to think of everything tech wise. And you also have to think of your background. Basically it's the tech and the logistics. It's what the whole thing, in my opinion, hinges on. The fact that the tech plays a big part. I mean, now in Zoom productions, in online productions rather, it plays even a bigger part.
Yes, yes, I agree with what Leah mentioned. And I just recalled about my experience in your thesis production where back then when we were doing it live, of course, you as an actor would focus more on your acting, on your performance itself. But now that we're doing it via Zoom, we had to make adjustments and we have to take certain hats. We have to, put some certain hats now, like doing our lights, making sure that we are wearing our costumes or preparing our costumes ourselves, doing our makeup, and all of these things that would in a normal setting. There are people who will help you with that, but now that you are basically by yourself, so you had to adapt. You had to be resourceful so that you can still manage to make it work.
Yeah, that's true. Another thing that popped in my head when you were talking to Nico is that actors are doing everything. Like how in backstage, usually backstage, when you're acting, you can ask help, like, hey, can you help me with the makeup? Hey, can you help me with my hair? But now it's just gone because you're the only one there. Another thing that I'm thinking of is that the fact that everyone, because when you're doing an online production, all of you are in one singular room, online room, quote and unquote. When it was during live productions, there's always the dressing room, and then there's the backstage, and then there's the tech booth. I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like another thing that's actually a good thing that came out from this online productions is that everyone in the whole production, actor, tech, director, SM, PM, and all that, we're all stuck in one room and we get to bond. It's like the backstage, but for everyone, if I make sense.
Yes, it's I get what you're saying, Leah. It's as if the hierarchies that were present or were subconsciously present in the production suddenly became
Disappears.
yeah, it disappeared.
Yeah.
And I guess that's a good thing, to make it
Mhm.
like so that the production team and the cast would bond more, would have this community of sorts as they go through this production. And with my experience with your production, I felt that when we were sharing about our experiences related to the story that we're gonna
Mhm.
tell in the play, and that's a really good development, I guess, that maybe and hopefully we can still practice even if we go back to doing it on a live setting.
That's true. That's true.
You know
Yeah.
what, actually, when Leah mentioned, I mean, what she mentioned, like this big one room where everyone is included in it. It's somewhat of a unifying element, or that's something new that really comes up with this new setup.
Yeah, that's true.
That
I
I
mean,
wouldn't, in a way, it sounds actually great because I haven't experienced it in the actual setup, but in comparison, or like just seeing, like, how would that be? It sounds actually nice to be united despite being not physically together, but being united by that one room that you mentioned.
yeah, that's true. It's like all the walls just came down. And if I remember, and based on my thesis, I read, like when Nico said, we had the sharing moment. I feel like when those sharing moments come, it's mostly for those people in the dressing room. But then during that time, we all were able to share, and that's the connection that we made with each other. Most people would make connections. When it comes to theater, most people do connections when you're actor to actor, right? While you're there, but we were still able to do that online because of all the sharing from everyone and in the front. And when I mean everyone, I mean everyone. So you guys are connected. I feel like it was it the connection was more in a sense.
Yes, yes.
Um,
I really agree with that. Guys, do you think that Zoom productions are here to stay?
I
I think it has to, because it'll naturally it'll naturally be one of the important evolutions in theater, that even if we come back, it may or may not be able to completely stay the same way, but there's a lot of learnings from this. that will surely be brought to after the pandemic. Like all the learnings that came from this experience, these Zoom productions. Even if, let's say, people would eventually still prefer to really go back in the physical setup, there are a lot of learnings from this Zoom experience or Zoom production experience that in one way or another will still be brought to the people who watch Zoom productions, who are part of the Zoom productions.
Yeah, I agree. Zoom productions, as much as we all crave for that face-to-face physical theater again, as of now, this is what theater is now. So right now, it's the next best thing, I believe. And sure, when the pandemic's over, um we'll go back to physical, but as Lisa said, we will be able to get from what we learned from doing these Zoom productions and apply it to the physical theater again. And not only just the technical stuff, we're also gonna get the learnings like the whole one big room thing. We can take that and put it in the physical theater. And for sure, if we already connected that way to a screen, what more if we connected in that way
It's
in a
actually
physical sense? It's more. It's just a big ball of connection. That's good.
Hinging on Leah's thoughts, I guess, yeah, when we go back to the physical live performance, I guess it will be a challenge and also an exciting thing for directors to ponder on how they can innovate their productions, their stagings with using these digital platforms, using Zoom or doing other, things that are available to us right now, since we are already transitioning into a new decade. So probably it can be a new thing that we practitioners can actually make use of, in terms of innovating. And since theater is also evolving every single time, so it's something that excites me as well. And when Leah mentioned about the bond that was created because of the Zoom productions, I really hope that when we go back to doing it live again, perhaps we can appreciate more the company of each other. Since before, of course, we didn't expect something like this to happen. So when we go back, the appreciation for each person involved in the production would be more. I mean, we will appreciate each other's contributions, each other's involvement, and the effort that everybody gives in a production.
like I'm really, in a sense, even looking forward to how the next step of the evolution of theater given this pandemic, coming from the need to adapt or evolve in this pandemic, and how the transition would be afterwards. How for sure the experiences in this pandemic has left a mark in how we've always done theater, one way or another. Great. So I think we were able to discuss a lot about Zoom productions coming from our personal experiences of it, and how we even think about it or how we see it. Diba? Like there's this perspective of is Zoom productions an actual experience of theater or not? But then again, there are these advantages, such as it being a lot more accessible these days. It's actually one of my favorite things, because essentially the messages that theater wants to convey, that's one of my favorite things in theater. They always want to convey something. In this Zoom production setup, there's also a huge challenge in making sure that message comes across, right? That's why, like, a lot goes into mounting this. Like what Leah said, that there's the very, very huge importance of tech. Actually, come to think about tech, it's something that's usually behind the scenes. Not even behind the scenes. It depends on where your tech is located in a theater. But normally it's behind the scenes in theater. But right now there's huge highlight for it, because without the tech, there wouldn't be a show. You wouldn't be able to, basically whatever is consisted in tech or technology that comes into creating theater, it can't happen. You get to do a lot of things. Like Leah mentioned, you're everyone. As an actor, you're everyone already. You're doing your own tech. You're doing your own makeup. I also like that, because that creates a different kind of learning experience for an actor, for someone who's in theater. Actually, not just an actor, a director, a stage manager, what have you. So there are a lot of things. Like right now, for me, I'm realizing that there's a lot more to what an audience can see. If you really think about what goes into our Zoom productions right now. But I think essentially a unifying idea, yes, it has evolved, it had challenges, and in a way you may even think that it's modified right now. But still, there is theater. And there's, coming back to our personal experiences, there will always be this burning passion for it. Right? That's one of my favorite things. And actually, going back to, for example, what our group of people or this organization, Artremix, is about, it's basically that. Having a group of people who has this burning passion for something and really using that to create different things or express it, such as through Zoom productions, through what we've been doing before, covers, through visual arts. I think that's essentially what Artremix is. Am I right? We have a lot of projects lined up. Starting with this production, starting with this, sorry, I keep on saying Zoom productions, starting with this podcast. This is just our first episode. In our upcoming episodes, we'll be discussing a lot more about not just theater, but in different areas of performing arts as well. You can also check on Sarah Vera's Let's Rock, available on Apple Music, Spotify, and YouTube as well. You can also check out Clint Andres' Ikaw Pa Rin, available on Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube. I think one of our very exciting content lined up for you is our upcoming production. So if, after all discussions that we've gone through, of course, you wouldn't miss out on actually mounting one. So just stay tuned on our Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Just search Artremix. And of course, Artremix is an organization that began with these just group of friends or group of members really passionate about theater and using this to create different forms of art and express it through any virtual means. We are actually soon to open our membership. So if you're one of these aspiring people who really want to just share this community of being passionate and creating art out of it, you can join us. Feel free to check on what we've been doing and share whatever you have in store. All right, so this has been Issa
and Lia
and Nico
for Artremix. Unleash the art in you.
This episode of TheatreMix is directed by Issa Llanos, hosted by Issa Llanos, Nico Varona, and Lia de Jesus, with the technical team, Audric Abbas, Jason Ed Ramos, and Marlon Villoso. TheatreMix is a production of Artremix. Visit our website at www.artremixproductions.com.